नमस्ते गुरुजी। जय गुरुजी महाराज। जय गुरुजी साध संगत जी। शुक्राना। गुरुजी महाराज द मल्टीलिंगुअल सेवादार टीम आप सबका स्वागत करती है। आज गुरुजी महाराज की कृपा से लाइट और डिविनिटी से डिवाइन ग्रंथ का एक सत्संग जो कि गुरुजी संगत आकाश सेठी अंकल जी ने लिखा था, उन्हीं की जुबानी आप सुनेंगे और मयंक जैन जी उनकी अगुवाई करेंगे। ओवर टू यू आकाश सेठी अंकल, मयंक जैन अंकल, आप दोनों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है गुरु परिवार की तरफ से। जय गुरु जी।
जय गुरु जी वासन अंकल, जय गुरु जी संगत जी।
जय गुरु जी अंकल, यूर ऑडिबल अंकल। अंकल संगत
आई एम
शेयरिंग करें
ऑडिबल,
प्लीज।
थैंक्स।
जय गुरु जी।
Blessed know and to be doing this light of divinity ग्रंथ में जो कंट्रीब्यूट किया और एडिट करके लोगों ने मेहनत करके बहुत ज़्यादा और उसे ग्रंथ का फॉर्म दिया और उसे पढ़ के सुनाने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हो रहा है, उसके लिए गुरु जी का बहुत बहुत शुक्राना। और त्रुटियां पढ़ के देखा तो पहले भी की थी, आज भी होंगी। गुरु जी से पहले ही क्षमा याचना कर लेता हूँ कि पढ़ने में सुनाने में जो त्रुटियां हों क्षमा करें, और हमेशा की तरह अपना बच्चा समझ के, अपना शिष्य समझ के, अपनी संगत समझ के क्षमा कर दें और कृपा बनाए रखें। सो आई विल रीड फ्रॉम द चैप्टर which is titled When the Divine Father Blessed Us with Sons. When the Divine Father Blessed Us with Sons. And it was in the last week of June 1998 that I had the good fortune of having Guruji's darshan. My maternal uncle had been telling us about Guruji and the miraculous cure of his heart problem. My uncle had been advised to go for an urgent bypass surgery by his cardiologist. Preparing himself mentally for surgery, he had gone to Guruji for his blessings. Guruji had ordered him to sit near him and press his feet. Guruji then inquired about his health. Uncle told him and then sought his permission to leave and his blessings for the imminent surgery. Guruji told him he need not go for the surgery, saying, I have already done your bypass. मैं तेरा bypass कर देता है. It was hard to believe even for a devout disciple like him, but he was happy that Guruji had blessed him. Next morning, Uncle went for his pre-admission tests. The tests revealed that his heart was functioning perfectly. His cardiologist, however, attributed the good reports to the tests having been done just after the patient had slept well. He directed Uncle to get the tests redone at a different lab. Again, the results were the same. The doctor was stunned. Uncle related the nights happenings at Guruji's to the doctor. The doctor was left speechless and could not but wonder at Guruji's divine intervention. Even though I knew of Guruji's grace, this was about my Mamaji, Mr. Oberoi, and he had first told us about Guruji. So now I get to what was happening on our front. Even though I knew of Guruji's grace, I could not receive his darshan because I was posted at Srinagar and came to Delhi only on short visits for official work. Fortunately, the next time I visited Delhi, Uncle conveyed the good news that Guruji was in Delhi and we could go to meet him. We went to the Empire State Sthan of Guruji the same evening. It was quite late by the time we reached there. The last round of langar was on and Guruji had gone to his room for a while. We were asked to sit for the langar and were with the Sangat when Guruji walked out of his room. The first darshan of Guruji, walking gracefully, though unassumingly into the hall, dressed in a black kurta, is still fresh in my mind. Yes, At the time of writing, 2007, also it was fresh. Today in 2024. Again, it is very, very fresh in my mind. He recognized my uncle, observed us. We were first timers and came to us. He asked uncle to introduce us and then gave us chutti after telling us to come to the ranch, which is a farmhouse on the Gurgaon Mehroli Road, for his birthday celebration. This was our first darshan with Guruji. First day and the testing times. As the luck would have it, the next day when I went to join my Delhi office, I was told to go back to Srinagar on temporary duty as the new in charge who had come in my place had faltered on service and an important customer had complained to the regional office. I returned to Srinagar, unhappy at the prospect of not being able to get Guruji's darshan on his birthday, but confident of meeting with success in my official duty, as I had received darshan and Guruji's blessing. I knew everything would go as Guruji wanted it to. I went through the official duties at Srinagar and Avantipur under very tough conditions. Remembering Guruji in every adverse moment, the customer was more demanding than ever before, and used to push us around, attempting to substantiate his complaint. I could have failed at occasions like this in the past, but this time it was different. It was different. The divine blessings were with me. There was an anchor I was holding on to and remembering him during every tough hour. Finally, after a month, the customer called me to his office and in front of me made a call to our regional office, telling them of the excellent service being received. He told them to ignore the earlier complaint. An appreciation letter was handed over to me. I knew whose doing it was. I returned to Delhi, looking forward to Guruji's darshan. My family had gone for Guruji's birthday celebrations and had been regularly going to Empire Estate. Those were old days, 98 I'm talking about, no mobile phones, trunk call once in a week, and all those descriptions had to wait for my physical return to home. They told me of the many thousands of devotees who had come to Guruji's birthday and of the experiences the Sangat had shared with them. I thought, but would he bless us with a child? We had been childless for 7 years. Medical treatment, prayers, and upayas had failed. My uncle had suggested we seek Guruji's blessing. He had also related the experience of a contractor friend of his. I take a pause. Mayank, if you want to interact. Mayank
जय गुरु
uncle.
जी अंकल, जय गुरु
Jai
जी।
Guruji.
गुरु जी के चरणों में प्रणाम। वासन अंकल, आपकी सेवा बहुत ही एक महत्वपूर्ण सेवा है। आप राइट मैसेज सारी संगत को भिजवा रहे हैं, और ये जो लाइट ऑफ डिविनिटी जो एक ग्रंथ है गुरु जी का, बड़ा पायस ग्रंथ है, और इसके जो फर्स्ट फ्यू पेजेस जो हैं 6, 7, 10 पेजेस हैं, उसमें पूरा डिविनिटी का एक्सपीरियंस, गुरुजी का जो रस था ऑफ internal journey of Guruji, the internal cleansing of the soul, how peaceful the soul felt when they first saw Guruji. Uncle, I would just request if you can share one or two things about the internal journey and how the bruised soul felt in those first few months. Coincidentally, I also met Guruji in 98, and coincidentally, we met about 1 month ago in
Yes,
Gurgaon. So there are
yes,
no coincidences, Guruji. Like मेरे अभी रोंगटे खड़े हुए हैं कि मैं अंकल से शायद 25 साल के बाद मिला हूँगा. And
yes.
uncle recognized me. We spoke, and today we are on the same platform. So thank you,
Yeah.
Guruji. इसमें आपकी कोई blessing होगी, आपकी कोई कृपा होगी. There are no coincidences. Uncle,
There are
over to
no
you.
coincidences. Everything goes as per his plan. And to recall, say what, because I used to, I was not a very religious person, but spiritually I was connected for long. And I look at each and every step going to a religious place, going to a spiritual guru, and going to Vaishno Devi, and every step you take finally takes you to the Almighty Guruji, finally. And you see him as a summation of all the earlier spiritually advanced gods and goddesses that you have visited, seen, interacted, prayed to. And then you suddenly feel you don't need to go any further. You don't need to go any further. You have to stop here and start accepting him as the ultimate Almighty, and fully comply to whatever commands he gives. So then nothing is impossible, and your spiritual advancement, your spiritual journey starts. That's how I.
Very well said. I think Guruji said कि आपकी सर्च खत्म हो जाती है और true divine journey start होती है once we meet Guruji. I think that is the internal journey that he was talking about, how to find the Guru within you. And then
Yes.
Guruji is always there to guide us.
Yes.
Please
So
continue, Uncle.
went
Please.
for a worldly thing. We didn't have any children. We went for that. Because whenever I think emotionally about it, I get into writing verses. आया सी कुछ मंगन मैं आप खो गया, तेरा मुख नूरानी वेख्या मैं तेरा हो गया. So that was the experience.
Wow. Wow.
So, and my Mamaji, he told us about a contractor friend of his. So I'll carry on from there. The contractor had been childless for 16 years when he got Guruji's blessings. And Guruji had told him, Uttar viditte ti viditti, or Essisa, I give you sons and a daughter too, and that too this very year. This was unbelievable, but true to Guruji's words. The contractor's wife gave birth to triplets, 2 sons and a daughter, on 31st December of that year. Everything is possible with Guruji's blessings. But whether and when will he bless us? This was going on in our mind. We knew of that contractor's experience, but then whether it will happen to us, when it will happen to us, was the question that we were internally struggling with. We continued visiting Guruji regularly, but he never talked to us. The Sangat told us to have faith in Guruji. He will talk to you at an appropriate time. Do not go to him on your own to mention your problem, they advised us. One day when we were sitting amidst the Sangat, after the Langar, Guruji gestured to me to come to him. Prior to that, 2-3 times he had gestured to somebody else, and I mistook it as I was being called. I got up and he told me to sit down. Was he indeed calling me? This was my thought. Yes, it was me, the Sangat assured me. I walk up to Guruji, thousands of thoughts in my mind, but with no courage to speak. Ethe kyun aaya main? This is what Guruji said. Ethe kyun aaya main? Why have you come here? He asked. I mustered just enough courage to mutter, Guruji, I have no children. Guruji said detachedly, you will get children. Run away from here. Te ho jaange phir bhaj jaye tu. This is exactly what he said. Without thinking, I muttered again, Guruji, I have not come to run away. Guruji, bhajan lai nahi aaya. Guruji looked at me and said, okay, then keep coming every 8th day. This was something that surprised me no end. I wondered how Guruji knew it was convenient for me to come only every 8th day. At that time, I was working in shifts with an 8-day rotation cycle, 2 morning shifts, 2 afternoon shifts, 2 night shifts, and then 2 off days. And only the evening of the first off day being convenient for attending the satsang, because satsang used to start at something like 7:30 and go on till 12, 1 o'clock, sometimes even later than that. So only the first off was a suitable day in those 8 days when we could go and sit in the Sangat, and still my official duties and going and coming to office would not be disturbed. We started going for Guruji's darshan every 8th day. The members of the Sangat who had been blessed by Guruji used to narrate their experiences. This gave us hope that our desires would also be fulfilled, thanks to Guruji. But when we used to ask ourselves, also things were improving. My wife's job became permanent in November 98. She took Guruji's blessings before her job interview and was the only one selected from among 42 candidates. Our finances were also getting better. My wife and I were continuing to get treatment for infertility without much success. The doctor had suggested a few attempts of IUI, which is intrauterine insemination, although she was not hopeful that it would work for us. She had stated that this would be followed by attempts at IVF, which is vitro fertilization, which is an expensive procedure. And frankly, we could not have afforded it at that point of time. It was beyond our capacity. At the same time, I received a message from my company that I had been shortlisted for an entrance exam to an executive MBA program. The duration of the program beginning in June 2000 was to be 1 year. I was in two minds. My wife was vehemently and vocally against my appearing for the exam. I asked her to leave the decision to Guruji. She stated, what if he says yes? The treatment will stop for 1 year. Still, on our next visit, I gathered courage to go up to Guruji and ask him whether I should go for the exam. Guruji responded, saying, such chances come only once in a lifetime. You should go for it. Guruji exactly said, Mauka bar bar nahi aanda, jao exam deo. I told my wife of Guruji's decision. She was unhappy. Now, I appeared for the examination. Before the list of selected candidates was circulated, several rumor lists were doing the rounds. My name was not there in any of the rumor lists. I told my wife about my non-appearance in the rumor lists, and she was quite relieved. Meanwhile, the doctor decided to make a last IUI attempt on 2nd of June 2000. She stated that she was not very hopeful and would want us to go for IVF after this attempt. I informed my office that I would be coming late on the day. After the sample collection and initial checkup, I had to give a repeat sample. The technician told that this sample was not good enough, so a repeat sample is called for. I called up my office and conveyed that I would get late further and may not come to the office at all. I was instructed by my superior to make it to the office howsoever late I may get. I gave a repeat sample, and after arranging for my wife's return home, left for my office. There I was told of my selection for the executive MBA program. Acceptance for joining the course was to be given within 3 days. The next day, we went for Guruji's darshan. I broke the news of my selection to the MBA program to Guruji. This is even at that time, I knew this is my illusion, as if anybody can ever break a news to the omniscient. He smiled and said, Firte Kalyan ho gaya. You have been blessed. I thought, I have told Guruji about my selection, and he is saying I have been blessed with happiness. This is but obvious. But what Guruji meant was not apparent to us. We were to discover that in a few days. Mayank uncle, you.
अंकल थोड़ा सा ना मैं फ्रॉम अ पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ न्यू संगत आपसे उनकी तरफ से पूछना चाहूंगा कि काफी संगत के जहन में ये बात रहती है कि हम फिजिकली गुरुजी से नहीं मिल पाए,
Yeah.
गुरुजी जब फिजिकली थे हम नहीं मिल पाए. You know, honestly, I want you to make them understand that गुरुजी का वहाँ होना या ना होना, हम लोग चुपचाप बैठे रहते थे बस. कितना कम इंटरेक्शन होता था, आंखों में ही इशारे हो जाते थे, आकर लंगर खाकर चले जाते थे. 98 में गुरुजी 7 दिन दर्शन देते थे, all 7 days. थोड़ा सा उसका थोड़ा सा रियलिस्टिक बताइए, so that you know it is important for the sangat to understand it is not about the physical presence or the shahid varsha or something. It's all about the connection.
It
थोड़ा
is
सा if you can
about
dwell
the
on that.
connection, and say close to the end of my reading, this question will be summarily answered. But right now, I can say that the person who used to sit on the first floor in the last row with least darshan of Guruji was the person on Guruji's mind, top of Guruji's mind. Those guys would get blessed first. You hear to their satsangs, you have never seen them sitting in front of Guruji. And if I tell my experience that after Guruji left his body, whenever I have desperately remembered him, I had a heart attack. And that day I was, once it was revealed to me that you had that, so the thoughts of arising from whatever study of Mad Bhagavad Gita I have done, Japji Sahab I have done, which says that मृत्योपरांत आप जिसको ध्याते हो उसको प्राप्त होते हो. I remembered him and put a simple question: Are we meeting today? And the answer was as kadak, as crisp, as loud as it always has been. जिथे हो जो कर रहे हो कर दे रहो, कोई मुलाकात नहीं हो रही. And I was relieved. I told my wife, I told the doctors, whatever sort of job they do, I have got my answers. And this habit, I'll tell you that I made this habit in 2001. And after that, I ask him, or sometimes without asking, he answers. And whatever he answers is my command, is my belief, is something that I am 100% or even more confident of. So if your connection is there, physically meeting him, not meeting him, I don't think it is important. It is your
And Uncle,
devotion,
one
your
small
connection.
thing, like this very important thing that you mentioned about the direct connection. Should we force this direct connection or does it come naturally over time?
When you can think of him as an absolute thought with no other thought disturbing that particular, जिसे तसव्वुर कहते हैं, ख्याल कहते हैं, सिमरन कहते हैं, उस तसव्वुर ख्याल सिमरन के साथ आप अकेले रह जाते हैं और आपको गुरुजी के अलावा, उनके ख्याल के अलावा, उनके तसव्वुर के अलावा कुछ नजर नहीं आता, कुछ सूझता नहीं है, कुछ सोच नहीं पाते, then it happens. And yes, it happens only once he wishes. If your dedication is 100%, he will take you to 1000%.
Uncle, just one small thing. Sorry, जो आपने ये बात कही, ये इतनी ब्यूटीफुली आज के शब्द में बोली गई कि जब जो द्रौपदी का लास्ट चीर बचा, जब हाथी को डूबने से बस उसकी सूंडी ऊपर रह गई, उस अवस्था में जब होल हार्टेडली उन्होंने लॉर्ड को याद किया तो वो प्रकट हो गए. आई थिंक दिस इज द डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन. नो किंतु परंतु, नो इफ्स एंड बट्स, नो डाउट्स. वी आर ह्यूमंस, वी ऑसिलेट. It is natural to have doubts, worries, but I think then he kind of gives us some indication, and that reassurance and that strength comes in.
जद गुरुजी ਨੂੰ ਰੱਬ ਮੰਨ ਲਿਆ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਸੋਚ ਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ ਹਰ ਚਿੰਤਾ, ਹਰ ਫਿਕਰ, ਹਰ ਖਤਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਰੱਬ ਹੈਗਾ, ਤੇ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ, ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਪੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਏਗੀ.
जी अंकल, जय गुरु जी.
जय गुरु
वेरी
जी.
राइट, वेरी राइट अंकल. अंकल आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा. महाराज भी तो कहते थे ना, जब अमृत वेले की बात होती है कि तुम जब अपने भाव से मेरे को ध्याते हो, वो टाइम तुम्हारा अमृत वेले का है.
वही अमृत वेला.
और महाराज की तरफ से कृपा होती है तभी हम लोग ये ऐसा कर पाते हैं.
So I'll
जी
continue from where I left. I joined the institute at Gurgaon for the program. After the first module, I went back home. We went for darshan that evening. While returning, my wife asked me to buy a pregnancy test kit, and the meaning of Guruji's statement became obvious to us the next morning when my wife tested positive for pregnancy. The last attempt of IUI had worked under tough circumstances, had turned out to be successful. Thanks to Guruji, both of us were overwhelmed with joy and gratitude. We were in tears and were repeatedly kissing Guruji's photographs for a long, long, long while. We went to Guruji that evening. I touched his feet and was about to speak, once again trying to break the news to the omniscient, when he motioned me to keep quiet. I know, he said. My wife went through her pregnancy quite comfortably. In spite of my absence, she was able to get a house in her college complex during that phase, which helped her to do away with much of traveling. She gave birth to a boy on 31st January 2001. After completion of baby's first 40 days, we took the infant to Guruji for his blessing. That day, at the time of giving us chutti leave, Guruji asked my wife, Poonam auntie, और मुंडा लेना है? Do you want another son? And she was taken by surprise and did not answer. Guruji repeated this question to my wife on every next visit we made. She never answered but kept wondering during our drives back home how she could go through the medical procedure once again, and that too with such a small child to care. She said, Guruji must be joking. Now, he was not joking. After completion of my MBA in June 2001, I got transfer orders for Rajband, a place close to Durgapur in West Bengal. It was not possible for me to move to that place at that point of time, considering the young child and other responsibilities at Delhi. I pleaded with my company seniors, but no one was prepared to help. Disheartened by the apathy of my seniors, I was considering moving to the new posting without my family after making arrangements in Delhi for their stay. We went for Guruji's darshan on that evening. The day I was disheartened and had decided that somehow I will make arrangements for them and move all alone. That day too, Guruji asked the same question to my wife. Poonam auntie, aur munda lena hai? She promptly spoke. How will I get another son if my husband goes to post on that posting? Guruji smiled and said, this is really a technical problem. Let me cancel his transfer. We touched his feet and went back home. 2 days later, one of my senior officers called up and said, you have been talking about your inability to move. This senior officer had earlier told me he can't do anything about my posting. So on his own, he says, you have been talking about your inability to move. Why don't you write your request out and fax it to me? I will see once I get back to my office that what can be done about it. I knew who had put the thought in his mind. I continued in Delhi for another 2 years, rejoining the office after stay on my posting on 7th of July 2001. Guruji continued to put the same question to my wife. One evening in April 2002, she answered, as you please, because we were discussing this and Guruji used to ask and she used to further ask me, Guruji पूछते हैं, मैं कुछ नहीं बोलती हूँ, what should I do? So April somehow this thought arose in my mind, okay, you just leave it to him. Na? So she said, as you please. The pregnancy test was done the next day and it was positive. This time without any procedure, without any hormones, without any treatment. During the course of this pregnancy, my wife once mentioned to me that she wanted a daughter this time and would ask Guruji for the same. On our next visit, she was about to make the request to Guruji while touching his feet. He spoke first. First time, a son. Next time, also a son. Guruji exactly said, Pehle bhi munda, hun bhi munda, pher bhi munda, hor bhi munda. That you will get sons and sons only. She had her answer, and of course, another son was born to us on 1st December 2002. Guruji christened him our second son, Ishuk. And this was another very memorable day. We took this second son to Guruji's feet and asked him to name him. So he asks Menaka Gandhi auntie, you have written a book of children's names, so you suggest a name. So Ishuk, which means God's arrow, was name given by her under Guruji's direction. So Mayank uncle, do you want
हाँ,
to?
क्या बोलूं मैं जी। ये तो सुनकर ही जो आपकी जर्नी है गुरु जी का जो एक प्यार है, आई कैन जस्ट से अंकल गेट इफ यू कैन जस्ट एक्सपैंड ऑन द सिंप्लिसिटी ऑफ गुरु जी, द लव ऑफ गुरु जी। आजकल थोड़ा गलत वे में लिया जा रहा है, बहुत पॉम्प शो। लोगों को लग रहा है कि भाई जितना ज्यादा बड़ा ग्रैंड करेंगे गुरु जी उतना खुश होंगे। कैन यू जस्ट मे बी टॉक अबाउट द सिंप्लिसिटी, नीवापन, what he liked, discipline, what he said, be practical. Just some small messages
Yeah,
for the
because
Sangat.
I will recall two small incidents which are very alive in my mind. When we had gone on one of the days, earliest times when we started going and sitting in Sangat, Guruji was sitting in the veranda on a chair, legs over the armrest and roti roll karke kha rahe the. And we didn't, we just thought that we are having an illusion. Is such simplicity and such a simple person Guruji, because Guruji दिमाग में जो एक इमेज लेके लोग जाते थे, मतलब they were zapped, they were absolutely surprised by the simplicity of Guruji. And then those times discipline was still there, because today we see a lot of people socializing. That time it was a very clear instruction: no socializing, no show off. Anybody would be socializing or making a business deal with somebody, Guruji told that somebody is being a part of my Sangat does not guarantee that he is an honest, trustable person. So those things were made very, very clear. But today we see, and once people get duped, they blame Guruji. This is something strange happening, and because we could see and also listen to the experiences of the senior Sangha, we understood that Guruji is the Almighty Himself and nobody else. So this thought was rolling in my mind. One of the days I was sitting in Sangha, this thought was repeatedly rolling in my mind. And I saw Guruji इस तरीके से अपना नाखून चबा रहे. So I thought to myself कि है ते रब ही है, पर दसन की कोशिश कर रहा है कि मैं रब नहीं है. And Guruji was looking somewhere else, and suddenly he moves his gaze to me and देख के मुस्कुरा के then he looks elsewhere again. Like I got my answer that he can read my thoughts, and my thoughts that he is Lord Almighty Himself is absolutely correct. So I will continue from where I left. After the birth of our second child, Guruji once again asked my wife once whether she was planning to pursue a PhD. She replied that it was too difficult to manage her studies with two children. Guruji repeated the suggestion to her, adding, "Do you know PhD means pagal hone ka dar, fear of turning insane?" He asked her, "Tenu pata hai PhD ki hunda Poonam auntie?" She would answer, "Doctorate in philosophy," and the standard full form. And Guruji would laugh and say, PhD hunda pagal hone da dar. Actually, he was putting this thought in her mind that she should pursue PhD. Again, the reason behind this suggestion became obvious to us much later. When I got transferred to Mumbai, the only way my wife could join me was by taking leave for doing PhD. On getting my transfer orders, I went to seek Guruji's blessings and told him of my transfer. He told me to go ahead. I spent 1 year in Mumbai without my family. During this phase, we visited Guruji a few times. During one of these visits, Guruji told me, You take your family along, or else I will give you one more son. ये धमकी, और धमकी भी इतनी प्यारी, जो एक को तरसते थे उनको 2 देने के बाद गुरुजी कह रहे ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਜਾ, नहीं तो मुंडा होर दे देंगे. We took the hint and my wife applied for her PhD registration, which happened against all odds in a record short time, thanks to Guruji. As a result, my family could join me in Mumbai. It would not be out of place to mention that one of my father's friends, an accomplished astrologer, had told me when we did not have any children that I would get my first child only at the age of 41. He had also predicted that I would have a son, that too only after 2 daughters. The astrologer had hardly ever been wrong. When I asked him after Guruji blessed us with the children, the first one when I was 37 and second one when I was 39, how his predictions have gone wrong, he replied that astrology can only tell how your destiny has been decided by God. But a Mahapurush like Guruji, who is God personified, he continued, has the power to rewrite destiny. So there is no doubt that the one who has the power to rewrite our destinies is God himself.
How did that feel, Uncle, when you heard this from a expert? And also,
Because
could you
we had been,
could you correlate? Sorry, could you correlate Guruji's so many instructions like Aatve Din Aana, that how he knew that it was the best? Something, if you can expand on these feelings that you were getting of
because
reassurance and just mesmerized that how Guruji knows everything.
he, हम लोग कई दफे कहते हैं कि भाई इस शाहों के शहंशाह को हम क्या कहें, जो जानता है कि मेरे जहन में क्या चल रहा है, जो जानता है मेरे दिल में क्या चल रहा है, जो ये भी जानता है मेरे साथ क्या हो चुका है, जो ये भी जानता है मेरे साथ क्या होने वाला है, और उसे बदल सकता है जो मेरे साथ होने वाला है, तो उसे मैं कहूँ तो क्या कहूँ. पर इंसान हूँ, लफ्ज़ों का गुलाम हूँ, पहले लफ्ज़ बनाता हूँ, फिर लफ्ज़ बोलता हूँ, और बाद में अपनी मूर्खता पे खुद ही हंसता हूँ कि परमात्मा परमेश्वर सर्वशक्तिमान सर्वज्ञाता सर्वज्ञ को मैंने शब्द कहे क्यों. और गुरुजी के साथ ये फीलिंग मेरे को 1 2 नहीं, सैकड़ों हजारों दफे आई, विच टोल्ड मी रिपीटेडली कि आप किसी इंसान के साथ नहीं कन्वर्स कर रहे, आप किसी इंसान के साथ नहीं जुड़ रहे, ये परमात्मा खुद है, ये खुद परमात्मा है. क्योंकि परमात्मा के जो गुण बचपन से सुनते आए थे, जो हमें डिस्कवर करने में इतनी रिलीजियस बुक्स, इतनी स्पिरिचुअल ग्रंथ पढ़े, वो सारे गुण जब सामने नजर आते हैं तो अविश्वास रखना गलत है. और उसके बाद गुरुजी मानव रूप में इतनी सिंप्लिसिटी और इतने क्या कहते हैं बहुत सादेपन से रहे कि आप एहसास करके भी, सब कुछ समझ के भी आप कभी कह नहीं पाए. और दूसरे तो इंसानी फितरत है कि सामने है जो उसे लोग बुरा कहते हैं, जिसको देखा नहीं उसको खुदा कहते हैं, जिसको देख लिया उसको खुदा मानना जरा मुश्किल है. इंसानी फितरत ऐसी. So I continue from here, because we started believing to the extent our human minds would permit us, once we saw that he has rewritten our destiny. So accidents averted on road and tarmac. In September 1999, I had gone to Shimla with my wife, driving my car. I have never been a good driver. This is a confession, thanks to my habit of daydreaming. While we were returning from Simla, we had a stopover at Chandigarh. The next morning, we started later than planned, and that was bearing heavily on my mind, prompting me to drive faster than usual. We ran into a traffic jam between Ambala and Karnal. Our car was behind an earth mover, and there were several cars behind us. I was anxious to go ahead, but unable to do so, as only one side of the road was operative and the broad-bodied earth mover was blocking the view of the traffic coming from the other side. My wife was sitting beside me, her eyes closed, listening to Shabads on her Walkman. Those were Walkman days. The earth mover was traveling at a very slow pace. My patience gave way and I sped the car to the right side of the earth mover, intending to overtake it. Just as the car came parallel to the earth mover, I sighted the traffic coming from the other side and saw another earth moving racing towards us. It was only a few meters away and just a few inches gap between the two earth movers. The idea of car being torn apart by the approaching earth mover, which brakes very slowly, and the noise of the crews of both the earth movers shouting at me sent a chill down my spine. My wife opened her eyes and looked at me, and both of us could not do anything but remember Guruji. Suddenly, I saw a gap in the divider on my right and swerved the car through that gap on the non-operational side of the road. Who else but Guruji could have saved us like that? So that happened in 1999. During February 2000, while I was on duty at the airport, passing on from the night shift through to the morning shift, I went for supervising a refueling of a Boeing 707, which is a huge wide-bodied aircraft. The technician was working on the engine with its flap open, and our refueling staff was waiting for him to come and get the refueling started. I went to the technician who said there was a lot of work to be done and he was single-handedly attending to the aircraft. Even the securing arm of the engine flap was not working because there's a securing arm on which the engine flap rests. So that was not working and he had kept that flap on one arm of the ladder on which he was standing, which is a safety hazard as further you would know. I heard him out and requested that he should get the refueling started and then attend to his work. He asked me to go to the refueler and then he would follow soon. Just as I turned to go, he shifted his stance on the step ladder, which was not in my sight, and the flap of the engine dropped from the rest it was on and started falling down. I caught a glimpse of the flap approaching me with great speed and remembered Guruji. The flap struck my forehead and blood oozed out. I was conscious and was driven to the airport doctor. He looked at the wound and said, God has saved you. A centimeter up or a centimeter down, and the injury would have been fatal. This time too, I knew the God who had saved me. Mayank uncle.
अंकल हाँ जी, गुरुजी बड़े चीज को छोटा कर देते थे, कोई बड़ी विपदा
Because
को बिल्कुल छोटा कर देते थे। थोड़ा
I'll
सा
I'll
इस पे एक्सपैंड करें।
I'll show you that mark. Here it is.
जय गुरुजी, जय गुरुजी, जय गुरु।
A centimeter up and skull would have opened. A
जय गुरु
centimeter
जी
down
महाराज।
and my eyes would have been over. And after this happened, हम संगत में गए just to cover this because stitches लगे हुए थे and just to cover this so that Sangat and Guruji they don't see it. I was wearing a cap. छुट्टी देते समय गुरुजी हंसते हंसते कहते हैं ਉਹ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਬੜੀ ਠੰਡ ਲੱਗਦੀ ਹੈ ਫਰਵਰੀ ਦਾ ਅਖੀਰ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਕੈਪ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਆ ਜਾਣਾ तो I removed my cap. मैं गुरुजी चोट लगी हुई है. He looked at it. कहा चल पाजा हुन नहीं लगेगी. Way too blessed because he knew what had happened. Again, he asked a question and बेवकूफों की तरह मैंने इसका जवाब भी दिया. I told him, I made him see this. Again, blessings. जा हुन नहीं लगेगी. What more can I wish for? Can't wish for anything more. That the Lord Almighty has a look at my wounds and says that you will not get a wound again. So next,
गुरुजी का जो ये जो सिंपल तरीके से इतनी बड़ी बातें कह जाना, ही वाज सो सटल. थोड़ा सा
Yes.
उस पर, जस्ट अ मिनट ऑन दैट अंकल प्लीज.
uh, I'll tell you, because further on there's an incident, and prior to that, I'll tell you an incident that happened because 2006 it happened, and it is not there in my satsang. Guruji's birthday, everybody knows 7th July. We had come down from Bombay. My wife was to make a presentation at her department, pre-submission presentation of PhD. That was to happen on 11th of July 2006. 7th, I had planned that I will come to Delhi along with them, and then return on 8th, join back the office. And she would make the presentation, and then she and the kids would return later on. गुरुजी के बर्थडे को आज अगर लाखों लोग आते हैं बड़े मंदिर में, तो हजारों तो तब भी आते थे. And in that huge crowd, when सेवादार्स were telling कि चलो चलो जल्दी करो, उतो ही हाथ जोड़ के आगे बढ़ते रहो, हाथ जोड़ते रहिए, आगे बढ़ते रहिए, झुकने की, मत्था टेकने की जरूरत नहीं है. गुरुजी signals to me, and naturally सेवादार्स allowed me कि गुरुजी बुला रहे हैं, तो मैं गया. तो इसे सुन, तू गुरु पूर्णिमा ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰੀ ਲਗਾਣੀ ਹੈ, which is 4 days later, means 7th 11th. Now he has commanded, I have to comply. So I came out, लंगर किया, बाहर निकल के I told my wife, Guruji has told me to be here on Guru Purnima. Decided, and she jokingly said, so that you help me create a PowerPoint presentation, that's why he's commanded you like this. So I changed my reservations. गुरु पूर्णिमा वाले दिन गए, प्रेजेंटेशन हो गया, बड़ा अच्छा हो गया. शी वॉज वेरी हैप्पी, एंड इवनिंग वी वेंट टू बड़े मंदिर. वहां पे गए. नाउ इफ गुरुजी हिमसेल्फ हैज टोल्ड यू टू कम, यू एक्सपेक्ट कि जब गुरुजी के सामने से निकलेंगे तो एटलीस्ट एक्नॉलेज तो करेंगे. बट वही था, सेवादार कह रहे हैं कि मत्था टेकन दी लोड़ नहीं, वधदे रहो, एंड गुरुजी इज नॉट लुकिंग एट मी. सो आई feel a little disheartened, and disciplined तो थे ही कि बाहर गए, कहा कि लंगर करिए, छुट्टी हो गई, वापस अंदर आने की जरूरत नहीं है. हम लंगर करके बाहर निकले, मोबाइल निकाला, ऑन किया, hundreds of messages, several missed calls, and I called up the person who made the last missed call. I said, what is the matter? Why I'm getting so many messages? Why so many people are trying to call me? The local station next to our office in Mumbai and the next 3 stations have had bomb blasts. So people are worried because you are supposed to be here on 8th. And once your schoolmates are not there, you would have traveled by train. So we were bothered that something might have happened to you, and then you are not picking up calls. Makes us worry even more. So, and simultaneously at that time I received another call. My friend's father was not well, so that's how he had saved my life once again, and it slipped off my mind. It is not there in Light of Divinity. So I recall this after I had submitted this. आई डोंट नो, बिकॉज हम उन
वाओ.
कृपाओं का शुक्र अदा करते हैं, जिन कृपाओं का हमें पता है, जिन कृपाओं का, जो मुसीबतें आई ही नहीं गुरुजी के करने से, उनका शुक्र नहीं अदा करते, तो गुरुजी उन सब चीजों के लिए भी जो मुसीबतें आ ही नहीं पाई, आपने आने से पहले ही गायब कर दी, उनके लिए भी शुक्राना गुरुजी.
अंकल दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग आपने जो भी कही है, क्योंकि जब मैं भी जाता था तो मैं भी काफी परेशान होता था कि मेरे साथ कोई सत्संग नहीं हो रहा. सुनते हम बहुत सत्संग थे, तूर अंकल, बैनर्जी अंकल, सब बड़े मजे थे, सुनाते थे. तो एक संगत ने मुझे आकर कहा कि ही हैज एन अम्ब्रेला ओवर ईच वन ऑफ अस. where he has given his protection 24/7. So आपकी ये जो बात आपने कही कि जो हमें पता है वो उसका तो हमें एहसास है, और वो भी कितना एहसास है जितना वो हमें एहसास करवाना चाहे. But more
बिल्कुल.
importantly, what he has diverted so subtly again, and it is so similar to the Clare Farm incident when the Clare Farm satsang was being trying to be organized by the armed forces. General Kapoor and Commander Uncle and all. He kept on postponing it for a couple of months, and then he chose a date which was the tsunami date. And so many officers, because that time Bali and all that was a very popular so many families cancelled their tickets to be with Guruji. So that is his grace, son. Jai Guruji. Please continue, sir. Please.
Yeah. Saved in flooded Mumbai. On the day of the Mumbai floods, that is the anniversary is tomorrow. 26 July 2005, I was in office. Some of the employees left early knowing that train services were disrupted. I went through my office work and came out at the usual time. By then, the employees who had left early to catch the trains had started returning to the office as the services had come to a halt. I had commuted that day by my car and was in two minds. Should I stay put or try to reach home? One of my colleagues came to me and said that his son was stuck in the school, which was on our way to home. That decided it for me. I remembered Guruji and headed for home with a stopover planned at the school of my colleague's son. As we tried to leave office, one of the gates was already submerged and a car had broken down in front of it. We went out through the other gate. The roads were underwater and it was difficult to get through. Braving the water and the jams, we reached near the school of my colleague's son in about 2 hours. As the buses were not plying, the school had made arrangement for overnight stay of the students at the school, we learned. My colleague said that since his son was comfortable with his classmates and our ability to reach home was doubtful, he had decided to let the child be only at the school for the
अभी
night.
कितना दूर है सर? 3.5 घंटे. 3.5 घंटे. कह रहे हैं भाड़ा ही भी है.
Mayank uncle, mute his.
सॉरी अंकल, क्या कह रहे हैं? सॉरी अंकल, आपने कुछ कहा?
I was saying आपका unmute था और some of the talk was.
नहीं, अच्छा सॉरी.
Okay. As the buses were not plying, the school had made arrangement for the overnight stay of the students at school, we learned. My colleague said that since his son was comfortable with his classmates and our ability to reach home was doubtful, he had decided to leave the child be only at the school for the night. We decided to continue trying to reach home. As we moved on, we found that the water had come to such a height that it was not possible to drive through or even return to the office. I decided to park the car at a high point where I had parked it when my colleague had gone for his son's school and called home that I would not be coming home that night. We slept in the car, and next day I drove the car back home slowly. On reaching home in the evening, I found that all the cars parked in the residential complex had been submerged and required major repairs. The same had happened to the cars parked at the office. The media spoke of people who had slept in their cars on the road, getting killed because the water level rose, trapping the occupants of the cars who were unable to pull down the windows or open the doors. But no harm had come to me, neither had my car been damaged, all because of the one whom I had remembered just before leaving the office. Only Guruji's kripa would have saved me that night, and it did. Mayank uncle.
नथिंग अंकल, मतलब मैं तो सुन रहा हूँ, आई एम तो जस्ट गोइंग बैक इन टाइम। मतलब हम लोग उनको फिजिकल फॉर्म में देखकर पूरी तरह से पहचान नहीं पाए। कभी कभी वो कुछ ऐसी बातें कर लेते थे तो लगता था कि क्यों कह रहे हैं ऐसा। वो भी उनका ही उसमें कोई डीप मीनिंग होगा। बट आई जस्ट वांट टू से दैट इफ यू कैन जस्ट state some simple instructions that Guruji used to give to Sangat. If something comes to your mind, do's and don'ts, just quickly if you can
I'll,
elaborate
t-
on that.
I'll tell you something regarding discipline, because although we had learned to keep ourselves disciplined, some of the times, because frankly, I don't think anybody is there who's never strayed. I strayed once, and I paid for it. Paid for it in the sense that there was one function at Empire Estate, probably New Year, and along with me, a friend of mine was there, who was repeated. He had come probably for the first time, and he was saying repeatedly, "यार चलते हैं, जल्दी चलते हैं." But कल ऑफिस है, इतने बजे पहुंचना, and all those worries that people who are employed in offices have. So we went for langar. We had langar. After that, there was again a queue for taking chutti, and he was desperate to leave. And I don't know, because that moment I thought that he has come, and if he misses office tomorrow, probably he may not come again. So I got influenced by him. And that time we met another Sangat member known to me, who was still standing in queue waiting for getting langar. अब हम दोनों निकल गए, उसकी गाड़ी आगे और मेरी गाड़ी पीछे, एंड वी टुक अ
आ
रॉन्ग
रहा
टर्न.
हूँ, मुझे पता चल रहा है तो यहाँ पुणे में तो बहुत ज्यादा बाढ़ वगैरह आई हुई है।
So we took a wrong turn, and
प्याजी के पास होटल है। प्राइम।
वासन अंकल ये म्यूट कर दीजिए, किसी की आवाज आ रही है. So we took a wrong turn and went for 4-5 kilometers in the fog, and before realizing that we are not on the right road to go home. There we asked somebody, he said ki you have to go another 2 kilometers, then take a U-turn and revert. And to add insult to injury, to make us realize even better that what we had done and what was our fault. When we reached Qutub Minar red light, the person who was standing in queue waiting to get langar, his car was on our left side, and he said, "You are still here." So we realized कि जब तक आदेश ना हो छुट्टी नहीं है, जब तक आदेश ना हो बैठना नहीं है, जब तक आदेश ना हो कुछ नहीं करना. तो आदेश में रहना is something that we have learned. Strayed once, paid for it, realized it once again, and after that, none of Guruji's commands has ever been evaded, and we have always tried to follow his dictates. I'll move further. His grace continues after Mahasamadhi. In February 2007, on a visit to Delhi, I went to have Guruji's darshan. As I was about to bow before him, before taking his leave, Guruji said, "Tu Delhi वापस आ गया है? Have you come back to Delhi?" I replied, "नहीं Guruji, हल्ली ते Bombay यहाँ." "No, I am still in Bombay." Guruji pointed to another person and said that he was talking about that man and not about me. But this was an indication enough for me, now having some sense of how disciples' wishes were granted, that I would get my long-awaited transfer to Delhi. I got my transfer orders in Delhi in the end of March 2007. I joined the Delhi office after a month and moved my family to Delhi on 26th May 2007. We were fortunate enough to have his darshan a day later. आखिरी दिन संगत हुई थी गुरुजी के भौतिक रूप में रहते हुए. We were fortunate enough to be there. On 31st May 2007, when I came to know of Guruji's decision to leave his body, I was shattered. Returning from Bade Mandir, I kept on thinking of the innumerable occasions when Guruji had blessed us with all that was not our due and that we were not even worthy of. What will happen now? Who will take care of us? These questions crossed my mind, and I did not have an answer. However, the one who had always answered all our demands, doubts, and prayers had the answers to these questions. I was to learn this in a few days. I had been participating in an intercorporate business simulation competition with my team in 2005 and 2006. For 2007, our regional preliminary round was slated for 1st and 2nd of June in Delhi. But after Guruji's Mahasamadhi, I felt I could not continue. I called up my teammates and told them that I was a much weaker person now and that they should not rely on me. One of them consoled me, saying that Guru does not ever desert a disciple, even after leaving his own body. I, however, did not believe him because I was grief-stricken. Our team somehow managed to get through the initial 4 rounds of the regional preliminaries. In the final round, we took a risky decision so that we could have a shot at qualifying for the regional finals. The results came, and we were told we had not qualified. I went out of the competition hall. I pulled out Guruji's photograph from my pocket and said, "This is what is expected to happen now." आप के रहते हुए बात कुछ और थी. I expressed my doubt to Guruji स्वरूप. अब तो गुरुजी यही होगा, आपके रहते हुए बात कुछ और थी. When you were around, it was different. As I looked at Guruji's smiling face in the photograph, my teammate who was checking the results said, "They have not fed our decisions correctly into the computer." We went to the organizers and told them of the mistake. After corrections were made, we were found to have qualified for the regional finals. After that, our team did not look back and stood second in the national finals on 6th of June 2007 and subsequently second at Asia Pacific Finals in September 2007. Guruji had thus told us in no uncertain terms that he and his grace are still with the Sangha. This is how we answered within 6 days. We had gone to the finals earlier. We had never won any position. This time we won the position. गिला किया और गुरुजी ने जवाब दिया. On the personal front, I was worried about getting admission for our sons in a good school. We were trying to gain access for our sons through different contacts, but to no avail. Ultimately, I remembered Guruji and asked him, "When you have given us these 2 sons, why don't you get them admission in a good school?" The question was answered faster than it was asked. The children got admission in a top-class school in Delhi without any donation, without any political influence. When we had arrived in Delhi, we did not have a place from where my wife and I could attend our jobs and also look after our children, that time aged 4 and 6. The only way out was for my wife to get a flat within her college. But none of the residents was close to retirement, and there were several lecturers senior to her. And flats are allotted only as per seniority. This time too, the miracle we needed occurred. A resident vacated a flat as his son found it inconvenient to travel to his far-off school. Strangely, none of the lecturers senior to my wife applied for the flat. Who else but Guruji could make miracles happen as and when they suit the desires and demands of any member of the Sangha. I have summarized my experiences with Guruji, my God. Guruji is my God. I close this with my heartfelt gratitude and reverence to him. Om Shri Guru Devaya Namah. May Guruji continue to shower us and all his disciples with good fortune, and good sense, and may we always remain worthy of being his disciples. Jai Guruji. This was until end of 2007.
जय गुरु जी अंकल।
जय
जैसा
गुरुजी।
आपने बड़े बड़े पॉजिटिव नोट पर आपने एंड करा, सरबत का भला, गुरुजी bless everyone. I think that should be
Yes.
our spirit and heart. I would just say that discipline was very important, like you mentioned with Guruji. So whenever we are attending satsangs, please be careful of how we are sitting. Can we make more space for sangat to accommodate? How we can be helpful? Seva is one medium which will help you connect very fast with Guruji, because that time we are not thinking about ourselves. We are thinking about Guruji and the sangat and trying to do the best for them. और आपने एक चीज बहुत बड़ी कही कि गुरुजी सेड कि गुरु पूर्णिमा पर आना है. So even then, at that time, he used to insist that on all the 4 functions, all the sangat should not only come to Bade Mandir, but also get as many people along with them to be blessed by Guruji at the big functions at Bade Mandir. So thank you, Uncle. Thank you, Suresh Uncle. Thank you, Guruji. I still cannot believe it. कि एक महीना पहले I met Uncle after 25 years, and today we are doing a joint session. इसमें गुरुजी की कोई कृपा है. So thank you, Guruji. Thank you, Suresh Uncle. Thank you, Uncle. सारी संगत को प्रणाम.
शुक्राना गुरुजी महाराज.
अंकल मुझे म्यूट कर दीजिए, मेरे फोन में कुछ प्रॉब्लम है, वो म्यूट नहीं हो पा रहा है.
I'll just unmute. जय गुरुजी महाराज. आकाश सेठी अंकल, बहुत ही ब्लिसफुल तरीके से आपने अपनी रीडिंग पढ़ी है. बहुत ही मैसेजेस गुरु संगत को मिले हैं. Very divine journey. It was a memorable interactive session with Mayank Jain uncle, yourself. गुरु परिवार की तरफ से आप दोनों को बहुत बहुत आशीर्वाद. गुरु परिवार के ऊपर महाराज की कृपा बनी रहे.
सब
इसी के
पर
साथ
गुरुजी की कृपा बनी रहे, हमारी यही प्रार्थना है. और नॉट ओनली कृपा बनी रहे, हम लोगों को सद्बुद्धि गुरुजी देते रहे कि हम डिसिप्लिन रहें, हम विवेक और क्या कहते हैं अनुशासन से उनके भक्ति में लीन रहें. हमसे कोई गलतियां ना हो, हमसे त्रुटियां ना हो, हमसे कोई ऐसा काम ना हो कि गुरुजी रुष्ट हों या उनके बताए हुए पथ से हम पथभ्रष्ट ना हो. गुरुजी ये प्रार्थना एक बार फिर आपसे करता हूँ, कृपा करते रहे.
जी अंकल, बचपन में ही हम स्कूल में पढ़ा करते थे ना, ए मालिक तेरे बंदे हम ऐसे
तेरे
हो
बंदे
हमारे का नाम. वही प्रार्थनाएं अभी तक याद, अभी तक इंग्लिश कोर्स में भी मतलब ये प्रार्थनाएं सुनवाई जाती हैं.
आदमी और बंदे में सर यही फर्क है.
जी
बच्चे को कहते हैं ना बंदा बन जा. बंदा वो होता है जिसमें बंदगी होती है, जो मालिक के कहे
करेक्ट
अनुसार चलता है. आदमी तो
करेक्ट
कोई भी हो सकता है.
करेक्ट. अंकल, जैसे आपका शायराना वो जो है एटीट्यूड रहा है शुरू से ही, आपने काफी पोएम्स लिखी हैं. एक गुरु संगत के लिए अपना गुरु जी से समर्पित कोई पोएट्री का कुछ सुनवा के फिर हम सेशन को कंक्लूड करेंगे, प्लीज.
चलो जी, देखो इतनी कृपाएं हुई हैं और गुरुजी ने इतने करोड़ों अरबों पे कृपा की है, पूरे ब्रह्मांड पे उनकी कृपा है. तो गुरुजी नाम के महासागर से एक कतरा मिला, तो एक कतरा मिलने भर से मैं इतना गदगद हो गया कि मेरे मन में यही आता है कि तेरे नूर की एक बूंद से जिंदगी में खुशियों का सैलाब आ गया. तेरे नूर की एक बूंद से जिंदगी में खुशियों का सैलाब आ गया. जिसने भी देखा ये कहा कि हाय तेरे नसीब पे ये कैसा शबाब आ गया. जब भी मैंने कोई तमन्ना की, जब भी मैंने कोई तमन्ना की और रहा इस पशो पेश में कि तेरे दर पे दुआ करूं या ना करूं, तेरे दर पे दुआ करूं या ना करूं, दुआ करने से पहले तेरे दर से दुआ का मुकम्मल जवाब आ गया, तेरे दर से दुआ का मुकम्मल जवाब आ गया। तो ऐसे हैं गुरुजी, कहना भी नहीं पड़ता, मांगना भी
बहुत
नहीं
खूब,
पड़ता, मानते रहो, मिलता रहता है।
बहुत
वाह
खूब।
वाह। Uncle, would you like to take some questions, two, three questions from the Sangat? Because it's important if somebody still has some doubts, Uncle can clear because he's been with Guruji. Maybe three questions, if that's okay with you.
या
ठीक है, समय है ना
फर्स्ट
वचन अंकल?
first three sangat may raise their hands if there are any questions. If someone asks to raise any questions, we will allow them to ask, please. किसी संगत ने कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना हो तो पूछ सकते हैं, प्लीज। जय गुरु जी। आई थिंक भाग्यश्री जागृति हैज रेज हर हैंड्स।
Three participants have
हाँ जी,
raised.
जय गुरु जी, शुक्राना गुरु
जय
जी।
जय गुरु जी।
जी मुझे ये पूछना था कि काफी संगत ये बोलते हैं कि उन्हें गुरु जी के दर्शन तितली स्वरूप में मिलते हैं या वाइट पिजन्स में मिलते हैं या ड्रीम में गुरु जी आकर बात करते हैं। तो मेरे साथ ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं होता है, तो मैं हमेशा बहुत ये महसूस करती हूँ कि गुरुजी मेरे साथ बात क्यों नहीं करते हैं। अगर सब संगत को ऐसे दर्शन देते हैं और ड्रीम्स में आकर बातें करते हैं, तो मेरे साथ ऐसा कुछ नहीं हुआ। तो एम आई गोइंग रॉन्ग समवेयर? प्लीज गाइड मी।
आप यू आर नॉट गोइंग रॉन्ग, एक्चुअली it is like I have never had any dreams for last 55 years because I am about 60 years. So up to 5 years of age, I don't remember. But after that, I have never had any dreams. So सपने नहीं आना मतलब काफी सुकून की नींद आप सो रहे हैं, आप अपने कर्मों से बिल्कुल भी डिस्टर्ब नहीं है। यू डू नॉट स्लीप विद द अनफिनिश्ड थॉट्स। और साधना और भक्ति करने के लिए सपने में गुरुजी का आना कोई ऐसा लाजमी नहीं है। अब उस हिसाब से तो आप अगर डिप्राइव्ड है तो आई एम डिप्राइव्ड इवन मोर। आई डोंट इवन गेट ड्रीम्स। लीव असाइड माय से इष्ट देव गुरुजी कमिंग इन द ड्रीम्स, आई डोंट गेट ड्रीम्स एट ऑल। एंड I'm not
तो
saying
फिर
that
गुरुजी
people
संगत
who
के
get
साथ कम्युनिकेट कैसे करते हैं?
कम्युनिकेट, आप ध्यान लगाओ, मेडिटेशन करो, गुरु जी को ध्यान में लाके अपने आंखें बंद करके यहाँ पे कंसंट्रेट करो, गुरु जी की प्रतिमा देखो अपने मन मंदिर में, उनका मंत्र जाप करो।
आप उनके स्वरूप से बात करो लाइक अ फ्रेंड।
थैंक
और
यू
क्या।
सो मच।
और ऐसा
तो
कोई बताता तो
ये
ये मत कहिए कि भाई
थैंक यू
एक ही
वेरी
तरीका, जो
मच।
इस हर एक के लिए अलग अलग तरीका है।
अलग 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 है। किसी की आवश्यकता है कि गुरुजी उनके ड्रीम में आए, किसी की आवश्यकता है कि गुरुजी उनको इंडिकेशन इन फ्रंट ऑफ बटरफ्लाई दें, किसी की आवश्यकता है कि गुरुजी उनको मोर दिखा दें। तो हर एक की अलग अलग आवश्यकता होती हैं, परिस्थितियां होती हैं। दैट इज व्हाई इट इज अ डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन एंड गुरुजी's connection is very customized. Like uncle can vouch that what was his blessing will not be his blessing,
करेक्ट,
and what was his
वेरी राइट। आई विल आई विल बी रिक्वेस्टिंग
uncle.
स्नेहा आंटी to unmute herself. Over to you, स्नेहा आंटी।
जय गुरु जी अंकल, जय गुरु जी
जय
थैंक
आकाश
यू वेरी
सेठी
मच।
अंकल।
जय गुरु।
आई डोंट हैव अ क्वेश्चन, बट मुझे आपको ये बोलना था कि थैंक यू सो मच कि आप आकर अपने सत्संग शेयर करते हैं। हम नई संगत को इतनी डायरेक्शन मिलती है, यू हैव नो आइडिया कि आप कितनी बड़ी एक ये काम कर रहे हैं कि आप बार बार अपना सत्संग शेयर करते हैं। बिकॉज एज अ ह्यूमन माइंड वी नीड रेपिटेशन अगेन एंड अगेन टू नो अबाउट आवर गुरु साहिब। तो आप इतने अच्छे से आपने आज आप ही के मुंह से आप ही का सत्संग पढ़कर Light of Divinity में से, it was such a pleasure uncle. Thank you so much for sharing your blessings with us, and we wish that Guru Maharaj always keeps you in his charan and bless you immensely. Thank you uncle.
जय गुरु जी।
आपके लिए जितना अच्छा है उतना ही अच्छा हमारे लिए। हमें कम से कम ये भूलने नहीं देता कि हमने शुक्राना करना है, हम किसी के आश्रय हैं और वो आसरा हमारे साथ आज तक है, और उस
वेरी
आश्रय के
राइट।
भरोसे हमने अपना लोक और परलोक काटना है। ये एहसास बार बार करते रहने के लिए सत्संग हमारी मदद करता है, और इससे बेहतर
करेक्ट,
काम नहीं है।
करेक्ट। आई बी रिक्वेस्टिंग पूजा नंदा आंटी, प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें।
जय गुरु जी अंकल, वासन अंकल, जय गुरु जी
जय।
सेठी अंकल, जय गुरु जी मयंक अंकल। मैं आपका सत्संग मैंने पहले भी सुना था और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा था। मैंने गुरु पूर्णिमा वाले दिन भी सुना था जब गुरु जी ने आपको रोका था और बचाया था। बस मैं आपसे इतना पूछना चाहती हूँ कि मैं सबके सत्संग सुनती हूँ डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन के ऊपर, अगर आप मुझे थोड़ा सा कोई एक दो लाइन में, मतलब कोशिश तो कर रही हूँ कि डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन बनाएं, बट फिर भी मैं इस पे जानना चाहूंगी अगर थोड़ा सा डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन कैसे हम गुरु जी से जोड़ें, क्योंकि आप तो वहां पे थे डायरेक्टली गुरु जी के पास, तो वो थोड़ा सा वो बता दें। जय गुरु जी।
पहली बात तो ये है कि आप यदि गुरु जी को ध्यान में ला सकते हो, गुरु जी का सिमरन कर सकते हो और गुरु जी के वचनों का पालन कर सकते हो, तो आपको किसी से कुछ पूछने की, किसी से सलाह लेने की, किसी के कहे पे अमृत वेला करने की, किसी के कहे पे जबरदस्ती कि भी मेरे को सत्संग करना है, मेरे को ये करना है, कुछ नहीं है। आप जिस तरीके से जुड़ सकते हो जुड़ो, लेकिन अपने आप जुड़ो। आज हम देखते हैं कई लोग किसी को कुछ बताते हैं, किसी को कुछ बताते हैं, वो सब जो है हमारे टाइम में भी जब शुरुआत हुई थी तो सोशलाइजेशन वाज एब्सोल्युटली नो। गुरुजी का अपना वचन था, सोशलाइज करने मत आया करो, यहाँ आते हो तो मेरे लिए आया करो। डोंट कम टू मीट पीपल, डोंट कम टू क्रिएट अ नेटवर्क। तो नेटवर्किंग जो है उसके अंदर जो है बहुत सारी डेल्यूशन होती है, बहुत सारी चीजें खराब होती हैं, और उस व्यक्ति के व्यवहार के आधार पे आप गुरुजी के विषय में धारणा बना लेते हैं। तो वो धारणा ना बने, आप इधर उधर ना भटके, तो आप मात्र गुरुजी से ताल्लुक रखो, गुरुजी से संबंध रखो, गुरुजी के विषय में सोचो और गुरुजी के वचनों का पालन करो। सो दैट इज द वे टू डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन, और डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन का कोई सब्स्टिट्यूट नहीं है। इवन इफ
आंटी आप पाठ करें, जितना जाप करेंगे उतना ज्यादा
जी
क्लोज
अंकल।
आएंगे, जितना आंखें, और आप उनके स्वरूप से बात करें। गुरुजी कहते थे, टॉक टू मी एज अ फ्रेंड, यू कैन सिट
जी
विथ
जी
हिम 1:1 and you can, like, you can sound it off. Don't get into superstitions, don't get into count, don't get into chaliyas, don't get into rituals. He was never into rituals. he
जी
was he was anti-ritualistic. So if you think that something is causing you to fear Guruji, or there is a fear of Guruji, then stop that. If something is increasing the love towards Guruji, then you do that.
जी जी।
It should not be a
करेक्ट।
fear psychosis. It should be the love for your God, for your Guru.
थैंक
क्योंकि
यू अंकल, थैंक यू।
गुरुजी सेड कि मैं किसी का कभी भी हार्म नहीं कर सकता, बिकॉज वो शिव हैं। शिव के दरबार में सब अलाउड है, देव दानव सब अलाउड है।
जी 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 जी। जैसे
गुरुजी
अंकल
सब पर
कभी
कृपा
कभी जैसे
करते हैं।
जैसे मंत्र जाप करते हैं हम ना, फिर कभी कभी जैसे होता है हम काम कर रहे हैं अपने ऑफिस में हैं, उस टाइम पे नहीं तो हम फिर मन में जय गुरु जी बोल सकते हैं टू रिमेम्बर गुरु जी एवरी
कभी
टाइम।
भी ये महामंत्र है, एनी टाइम गुरुजी सेड, एनी टाइम, एनी प्लेस, एनीथिंग देयर इज, दिस इज द डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन। एनी टाइम you can recite the महामंत्र।
राइट राइट,
आंटी
जैसे
मेरे को
मंत्र
तो
जाप करने
जब
की
रात को नींद
कोशिश
नहीं
करते हैं
आती है
ना।
ना, तो मैं मंत्र जाप करता हूँ तो 10 मिनट में नींद आ जाती है।
जी जी अंकल, एक्चुअली क्या है, जैसे कभी मंत्र जाप तो मैं करती हूँ, पर कभी क्या होता है हम ऑफिस में होते हैं, कोई हमसे बात कर रहा है,
अच्छा
कोई
अंकल,
काम है, पर हम
अभी
चाहते हैं।
शायद देर आर नो मोर क्वेश्चन, आई थिंक।
राइट।
एक एंडोर्ड अंकल, आर यू इन पोजिशन टू टेक वन मोर क्वेश्चन?
एक और ले लीजिए, वी विल।
थैंक यू
अंकल
अंकल,
आवाज नहीं आ
थैंक
रही है
यू।
आपकी।
हाँ, एक एक क्वेश्चन ले लीजिए।
यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल अंकल।
वन क्वेश्चन यू कैन टेक सर। हाँ जी, आप सुनाई दे रहा है आपको?
I'll request लज्जा आंटी, प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट करें। लज्जा आंटी, ओवर टू यू। लज्जा आंटी, मेरे को सुन पा रही हैं आप? अंकल, आई थिंक
जय
दिस इज द
गुरुजी,
टाइम
जय
टू
गुरुजी।
कंक्लूड द
सॉरी,
सेशन।
नाउ आई गॉट
बहुत ही
अनम्यूटेड।
पीसफुल तरीके से आपकी रीडिंग, और मयंक जैन अंकल, आपका हेक्टिक
जय
शेड्यूल था आज,
गुरुजी। वासन अंकल जी,
के
जय
बीच में आपने
गुरुजी।
बहुत समय दिया। दैट वाज बियॉन्ड
नहीं जी,
आवर
नहीं जी, ये तो
एक्सपेक्टेशन।
सेवा है गुरु जी की।
महाराज की बहुत कृपा
बहुत बहुत
रही है
धन्यवाद ये
हम
सेवा
सब
देने
पर,
की।
और ये कृपा
आपने
ही बनी
ऐसे
रहे गुरु संगत पर।
जी जी
इसी
जी,
के
वासन
जय
साथ
गुरु
अंकल
जी।
जी, जय गुरुजी।
आज का जो है गुरु जी महाराज से हम लोग आगे लेते हैं हम सब।